Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Podcast for Life, your go-to podcast for boosting your English speaking confidence. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sarah. We're so glad you've joined us today. We have a really important and, I think, very common topic to discuss.
Oh, absolutely, Sarah. This is something I hear all the time from English learners, and honestly, it still happens to me sometimes. The topic for today is, I want to speak English, but I forget words.
Yes, that feeling of having a thought in your head, knowing what you want to say, but then, poof, the English word just vanishes. It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it?
It is. I remember once, I was trying to tell a story about my vacation. And I wanted to say swimming pool. But my mind went blank. I just stood there, making swimming motions with my hands, hoping someone would understand. It was a little embarrassing.
Oh, Alex, that's such a classic example. And you know what? Every single English learner, from beginner to advanced, has experienced that. It's not a sign that you're bad at English or that you're not learning. It's a completely normal part of the language learning process.
Really? So it's not just me? Because sometimes it feels like my brain just disconnects.
No, it's definitely not just you. Think about it. When you speak your native language, your brain has had decades of practice connecting thoughts directly to words. With English, especially at the beginner level, your brain is still building those connections. It's like a new road network. Sometimes there are detours, or maybe a road isn't fully built yet.
That's a great analogy. So, why does it happen? Is it stress? Is it just not knowing enough words?
It can be a combination of things. Stress is a big one. When you feel pressured to speak, especially if you're nervous, your brain can freeze a little. Also, sometimes you might know the word passively, you understand it when you hear or read it, but actively recalling it to speak is a different skill. It takes more practice.
So, it's not that I don't know the word. It's just that I can't find it when I need it.
Exactly. Your brain knows it's there, but it's like searching for a specific book in a very large library without a proper catalog. Over time, with practice, your internal catalog gets much, much better.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better already. So, for today's episode, what are we going to help our listeners with? What can they expect to learn?
Great question. Today, we're going to start by reassuring you that this is normal. Then, we'll dive into some simple, practical strategies you can use in the moment when you forget a word. These are little tricks that can help you keep your conversation flowing, even if you can't remember the exact word.
Oh, this sounds very helpful. Because often, when I forget a word, I just stop speaking.
That's a very common reaction, and we want to help you move past that. We want you to feel more confident to keep trying, even if you have to use a different path to get your message across.
Perfect, and before we start, Sarah, I have a small challenge for our listeners today.
Oh, what is it, Alex?
Your mini challenge for this episode is to simply notice. Try to count, or just pay attention, to how many times you hear Sarah and me say the words forget or remember. It's just a little listening exercise, and it helps you focus on specific words. No pressure, just notice.
That's a fun one, Alex. A good way to keep our ears open. Okay, so let's get started. The first and most important thing to remember when you forget a word is, don't panic.
Easier said than done sometimes, Sarah. My heart starts beating faster.
I know, but truly, the more relaxed you are, the easier it will be for your brain to find that word. So, when you feel that blank moment coming, take a tiny breath. Just one deep breath. It gives your brain a moment to catch up.
So, instead of stopping and feeling embarrassed, I should just pause?
Exactly, a brief pause. It might feel long to you, but to the listener, it's usually barely noticeable. And it's much better than stopping completely. Think of it as a little mental refresh button.
I can try that. I usually just try to rush the word out.
And that's very common, but rushing can actually make it harder. So, practice this. When you're speaking English and you feel that word slipping away, just take a tiny pause, just like that.
Okay, I'm going to try that. So, that's our first strategy. Don't panic, just pause and breathe. Give your brain a moment.
Right, now, our second strategy is incredibly powerful, and it's something you already do in your native language without thinking. It's called circumlocution.
What now? That sounds like a very big word, Sarah, for beginners.
You are right, Alex. The word itself is big, but the idea is very simple. It just means, describe it. If you can't remember the exact word, describe what it is, what it does, or what it looks like.
Like my swimming pool example. I described the action of swimming.
Exactly. That was a perfect example of circumlocution. You didn't know swimming pool, but you showed the action, and people understood. Let's try an example together. Alex, imagine you want to talk about a fork. You know, something you eat with. But you forgot the word fork. What could you say to describe it?
Okay, I could say. It's something you use in the kitchen, you eat food with it. It has points like little fingers, but metal.
Excellent, Alex. See, you described it perfectly. Anyone hearing that would understand you mean a fork. Let's try another one. Imagine you forgot the word chair. How would you describe it?
Okay, it's a piece of furniture, you sit on it, it has legs and a back.
Wonderful. You see how powerful this is. Even if you don't know the exact word, you can use the words you do know to get your message across. This keeps the conversation going, and that's the most important thing.
This is really helpful. It feels like a way to keep talking, even when I'm stuck. So, instead of saying I forget, I can say, it's a thing that does this.
Precisely. And the more you practice describing things, the better you'll become at it. It also helps your brain build stronger connections between the word and its meaning, making it easier to recall next time.
So, for our listeners, try this. Think of a simple object around you right now. Maybe a cup, or a book, or a door. Now, without saying the word, try to describe it. What does it do? What does it look like? What is it made of?
That's a fantastic little exercise. Try it a few times throughout your day. You'll be surprised how quickly you can get good at it.
Okay, so we've got don't panic, pause and breathe, and describe it. These are two really practical tips.
They are, and the key is to practice them, even just mentally. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
This is making me feel much more hopeful about my English speaking. Forgetting words feels less like a big problem and more like a little puzzle to solve now.
Exactly, and that's our goal. We want you to feel empowered. Remember, every time you forget a word and then use a strategy to communicate anyway, you are getting stronger. You are building confidence.
Absolutely. So, we've introduced the problem, reassured everyone it's normal, and given you two immediate strategies. In our next segment, we'll dive into even more ways to tackle forgetting words and how to build your vocabulary so those words stick better.
We'll talk about using synonyms, gestures, and how consistent practice can make a huge difference.
You don't want to miss it, for now. Remember your mini challenge? Notice how many times you hear forget and remember. And start practicing those two strategies. Pause and breathe, and describe it.
Thank you for joining us today on English Podcast for Life. We're so excited to be on this journey with you.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, every little step is progress. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to English Podcast for Life. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sarah. Before the break, we talked about how normal it is to forget words. And we gave you 2 key strategies. Don't panic, just pause and breathe. And describe it. Alex, how are you feeling about those 2?
I'm feeling much better about them, Sarah. I actually tried describing my coffee mug during the break without saying mug. And it was fun. It made me think about the object in a new way.
See, that's fantastic. And that brings us to our 3rd strategy for those moments when you're speaking and the word just disappears. Our 3rd tip is, use a synonym or an antonym.
A synonym or an antonym. Can you explain those for our beginner listeners, Sarah?
Absolutely. A synonym is a word that means nearly the same thing. For example, a synonym for big could be large. An antonym is a word that means the opposite. So, the antonym for hot is cold.
Ah, I see. So if I can't remember happy, maybe I can think of joyful or glad.
Exactly. Or if you forgot fast, you could say quick. This is helpful if you know a few related words. Even if it's not the perfect word, it might be close enough to keep your message clear.
So, it's about finding a word that's good enough for the moment.
Precisely. The goal is to keep the conversation flowing. For example, if you can't remember the word difficult, but you know hard, that's a perfect swap. Or if you forget sad, but you remember unhappy, that works too.
What if I don't know many synonyms? I'm a beginner, so my vocabulary isn't huge yet.
That's a great point, Alex. And that's why this strategy is a little more advanced than describe it. But even with a small vocabulary, you might surprise yourself. For example, almost everyone learns good and bad early on. If you forget excellent, you could say very good. If you forget terrible, you could say very bad.
That makes sense. It's about making the most of the words you do know.
Right? And it's also a fantastic way to naturally expand your vocabulary. When you're searching for a synonym in your head, you're actively thinking about word relationships. So, next time you learn a new word, try to think, what's another word that means almost the same? Or what's the opposite?
So, for our listeners, try this. Think of a simple adjective, like small. Can you think of another word that means small? Or a word that means the opposite of small?
Excellent practice, Alex. Even if you only come up with one, that's progress.
Our 4th strategy, Sarah, is one I use all the time. Especially when I'm really stuck. It's use gestures and body language.
Yes, your hands, your face, your whole body can be incredibly helpful communication tools, especially when words fail you. Language isn't just about sounds, it's visual too.
I remember that swimming pool story. My hand movements definitely help people understand me.
Exactly. If you can't remember eat, you can pretend to bring food to your mouth. If you can't remember sleep, you can put your hands together and rest your head on them. These actions are often universal.
What if I feel silly doing it?
That's a very common feeling, but think about it. Is it more important to avoid feeling a little silly for a second, or to get your message across and keep the conversation going? Most native speakers will appreciate your effort and find it charming, not silly. They want to understand you.
That's a good way to think about it. So, if I can't remember running, I can just.
Perfect. Or if you're trying to say big and forget the word, you can spread your arms wide. For small, bring your fingers close together.
This feels like a great backup plan for when all else fails.
It is, and it's especially useful in real-life situations. Imagine you're in a shop, and you need to ask for a bottle of water. If you forget bottle, you can point to the water and make a bottle shape with your hands. The shopkeeper will almost certainly understand.
That's true. So, for our listeners, try this. Think of a few simple actions, like drinking, reading, or waving. Can you make a gesture for each one? Practice in front of a mirror if you want.
Great idea, Alex. It builds confidence, and it helps you realize how much you can communicate without speaking. So, we've covered 4 in-the-moment strategies to help you when you forget words. Don't panic, pause and breathe, describe it. Use a synonym or antonym, and use gestures and body language. These are all tools to help you keep speaking, even when you feel stuck.
They really make me feel less helpless. It's like having a little toolkit for my brain. But what about preventing forgetting words in the first place? How do I actually learn words better so I don't forget them so often?
That's an excellent question, Alex. And that brings us to the next big part of our podcast: building vocabulary and retention. Because while these strategies help you when you're speaking, we also want to help you remember those words long term.
Yes, I want the words to stay in my head.
Our first tip for really building your vocabulary and remembering words is learn words in context.
So instead of just one word, I learn a mini story with the word in it.
Exactly. Your brain remembers stories and connections much better than isolated pieces of information. When you learn a word in a sentence, you learn its meaning, how it's used with other words, and often its natural pronunciation.
That makes so much sense. I remember just making long lists of words, and then when I tried to use them, I had no idea how they fit into a sentence.
It's a very common method, but often not the most effective for active recall. When you learn I go to the park, you're not just learning go and park. You're learning the phrase go to, which is very useful.
So, if I learn a new word, I should immediately try to put it into a sentence.
That's the ideal. Or if you hear a new word, try to understand the whole sentence it's in. Don't just focus on the single word. Read sentences, listen to sentences, and when you speak, try to use full sentences, even simple ones.
So, for our listeners, try this. The next new English word you hear or read, don't just write down the word. Write down the entire sentence it was in, and then try to make 1 or 2 new sentences using that word.
That's a fantastic way to make new words stick. It helps you learn how to use the word, not just know its definition. Our next strategy for building vocabulary and retention is called active recall.
Active recall, that sounds like something from a spy movie.
Not quite, Alex, but it is about actively training your brain. Active recall means testing yourself. It means trying to remember information without looking at the answer immediately.
Oh, like using flashcards. But instead of just reading them, I try to remember the word first.
Exactly. Instead of just reviewing your vocabulary list, cover the English word and try to say it from your native language. Or cover your native language word and try to remember the English.
So, instead of just reading apple, I see a picture of an apple, and I try to say apple myself.
Precisely. Or if you have a word list, cover the English column and look at the native language column. Then, try to say the English word aloud. If you get it wrong, that's okay. Check the answer and try again later. This process of trying to remember, and sometimes struggling a little, actually strengthens the memory pathway in your brain.
So, it's like exercising your memory muscles.
That's a perfect way to put it. Many people just passively review their notes, but active recall forces your brain to work harder, and that's how it learns more effectively. This is why things like spaced repetition apps are so popular, because they use active recall.
Spaced repetition apps, can you explain that briefly?
Yes, briefly, these are apps, like Anki or Quizlet, that show you words at increasing intervals. If you remember a word easily, the app shows it to you again in a few days. If you struggle, it shows it to you again very soon. It's a very smart way to use active recall.
Wow, that sounds very efficient. So, for our listeners, your challenge is to try some active recall this week. Instead of just reading your English notes, try to test yourself. Cover the answers and see how many words you can remember.
Give it a try. You'll be surprised how much more you retain.
We've talked about what to do when you forget words and how to learn them better. But, Sarah, what about just being around English more? Does that help words stay in my head?
Absolutely, Alex. Our next tip for building strong vocabulary is immerse yourself. Listen, read, speak. The more you expose yourself to English, the more familiar words become, and the easier they are to recall.
So, it's not just about sitting and studying. It's about living with English around me.
Exactly. Think of it like a baby learning its first language. They don't study grammar books, they are surrounded by the language all the time. While you're not a baby, the principle of constant exposure is powerful.
So, how can beginners immerse themselves without getting overwhelmed? I mean, I can't just move to an English-speaking country right now.
That's a very valid point. Immersion doesn't mean you have to be in an English-speaking country. It means bringing English into your daily life. Listen to simple English podcasts like ours. Listen to English music. Watch children's cartoons in English. They often have simple language and clear visuals. Even just putting on an English news channel as background noise can help your ears get used to the sounds. Read. Start with very simple English books. Graded readers are fantastic. They are written for learners at different levels. Read simple news articles in English. Even reading English labels on products in your kitchen can help. Speak. This is the most challenging for many, but so important. Try to speak to yourself in English. Describe your day aloud, even if it's just a few sentences. Find a language exchange partner online. Even just saying new words out loud after you learn them is a step towards speaking.
So, if I start listening to English music, even if I don't understand every word, it still helps.
Yes, it helps your brain get used to the rhythm, the pronunciation, and it makes words and phrases more familiar. The goal isn't always 100% understanding, especially at the beginning. It's about exposure and familiarity.
This feels less like studying and more like living.
That's the beauty of it. Make English a part of your daily routine in small, manageable ways. Consistency is more important than intensity. 10 minutes of listening every day is better than 1 hour once a week.
So, for our listeners, choose one small way to immerse yourself this week. Maybe listen to an English song, read a simple English sentence, or try to say 3 English sentences about your morning. Just one small thing.
Fantastic idea, Alex. It builds a habit. Our final strategy for truly making words stick, and one that often gets overlooked, is the power of repetition.
Repetition. So, just saying a word many times.
Not just saying it many times in a row, though that can help sometimes. It's more about encountering and using the word multiple times over a period. Your brain needs to see or hear a word many times, in different contexts, and ideally, use it yourself before it truly becomes part of your active vocabulary.
So, it's not enough to just learn a word once.
No, usually not. Think about it. How many times have you heard or read the word hello in English? Hundreds? Thousands? That's why you never forget it. Your brain recognizes it as a very important, high-frequency word.
So, if I learn a new word, I should try to use it a few times that day. And then maybe a few times the next week?
Exactly. Active use is the best form of repetition. If you learn a word like delicious, try to say it a few times that day. This coffee is delicious. That food was delicious. Look for opportunities to use it in your speaking or writing.
So, it's about making the new word a part of my English life, instead of just a word on a list.
Precisely. Your brain thinks, oh, this word is being used a lot, it must be important. I should keep it easily accessible. And this goes back to our earlier points, learning words in context and active recall. Both of those methods inherently involve repetition.
So, for our listeners, this week, pick one new English word you want to remember. And then, make a conscious effort to use that word or hear that word at least 3 times in different situations.
Wonderful challenge. And if you manage more, even better. But start with 3.
We've covered a lot today, Sarah. We started with what to do when you forget words in the moment, and now we've talked about how to learn them better so you don't forget them so often.
Yes, and remember, this whole process is a journey. There will be days when words come easily and days when you feel stuck. That's completely normal.
And that brings us to our final big topic for today, overcoming fear and building confidence. Because so much of forgetting words is connected to how we feel about speaking.
Absolutely. Our first tip here is crucial: embrace mistakes.
Ooh, this is a hard one for me, Sarah. I hate making mistakes. I feel embarrassed.
I understand that feeling, Alex. Many learners do. But here's the truth: mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are learning opportunities. They are a natural and necessary part of the learning process. No one learns a language without making mistakes, not even native speakers.
So, when I make a mistake, it's actually a good thing.
It is. Think of it this way: when you make a mistake, your brain gets feedback. It learns what doesn't work, and that helps it figure out what does work. If you never try to speak, you never make mistakes, and you never get that valuable feedback.
So, avoiding mistakes means avoiding learning.
Exactly. Imagine a baby learning to walk. Do they stand up once, fall, and then decide walking isn't for them? No. They fall countless times, and every fall teaches them a tiny bit more about balance and movement. It's the same with language.
I think my biggest fear is what other people will think.
Most native speakers are incredibly supportive of language learners. They admire your effort. They want to understand you. They are usually very patient. And if someone is critical, that's their problem, not yours. You are brave for trying.
That makes me feel a bit better. So, for our listeners, try this. This week, try to make a mistake in English on purpose. It doesn't have to be a big one. Just try to say something you're not 100% sure about. And when you make the mistake, congratulate yourself for trying.
I love that challenge, Alex. It reframes the whole idea of mistake. Our next tip for building confidence is: start small, speak often.
I think this is where many beginners get stuck. They want to speak perfectly from day one.
Yes, and that's impossible. You don't need to speak perfectly to communicate effectively. Start with simple sentences. Even just 1 or 2 words can begin a conversation.
So, if I learn hello, how are you, I should try to use that.
Absolutely. Don't wait until you can have a complex philosophical debate in English. Start with simple greetings, asking for directions, ordering food, talking about the weather. These are all real-life communication situations that use simple language.
So, it's about building momentum, even with very small steps.
Exactly. Consistency over perfection. 5 minutes of simple English conversation every day is more beneficial than waiting for an hour once a month when you feel ready. You'll never feel 100% ready. You become ready by doing.
I used to think I needed to learn thousands of words before I could even open my mouth. This is a much kinder approach.
It is, and the more you speak, even with simple sentences, the more comfortable your mouth and brain become with producing English sounds and structures. It builds muscle memory for language.
So, for our listeners, your challenge is this. Today, or tomorrow, try to say just one simple sentence in English to someone. It could be good morning, or thank you, or how are you, just one sentence.
And celebrate that one sentence. That's a huge step.
Our next tip, Sarah, is one I know is very important for actual speaking practice. Find a speaking partner, even a virtual one.
This is incredibly valuable. All the listening and reading in the world won't fully prepare you for a real conversation. Speaking practice is essential.
But it can be hard to find people to speak English with, especially if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
You're right, it can be challenging, but there are so many options now. And the best part is, you're helping someone else learn their language too. It takes the pressure off, because you're both in the same boat as learners.
So, for our listeners, if you're feeling brave, explore one of those language exchange apps today. Just download it and see what it's like. No pressure to speak right away, just explore the options.
Or, if you prefer, try speaking aloud to yourself for just 2 minutes today. Describe your breakfast or your plans for the afternoon. And our final tip for building confidence, and perhaps the most important one, is celebrate small victories.
What does that mean, Sarah?
It means acknowledging and being proud of every little step forward. Did you remember a word you usually forget? Celebrate it. Did you understand a sentence in an English song? Celebrate it. Did you speak one new English sentence today? Celebrate it.
So, it's about noticing the progress, not just the mistakes.
Exactly. Our brains often focus on what we can't do yet or the mistakes we make. But that's incredibly discouraging. You need to actively look for and acknowledge your successes, no matter how small they seem.
So, if I manage to order a coffee in English without forgetting any words, even if it's just coffee, please, that's a victory.
That is a huge victory. You used English in a real-life situation and achieved your goal. That builds confidence. Every time you successfully communicate, your brain gets a positive reward, and that makes you want to speak more.
This feels like a much more positive way to learn. Instead of feeling bad about what I don't know, I can feel good about what I do know, and what I can do.
That's the mindset we want you to have. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be ups and downs. But as long as you keep taking those small steps and celebrating them, you will keep moving forward.
So, for our listeners, try this. At the end of today, or the end of this week, think of just one small English victory you had. Maybe you understood a sign, or remembered a new word, or said thank you in English. Acknowledge it and feel good about it.
Excellent advice, Alex. And remember, you are doing something amazing by learning English. You are brave, you are intelligent, and you are improving every single day.
Wow, Sarah, we've covered so much today. From practical strategies for forgetting words in the moment, to building vocabulary for the long term, and finally, to really boosting your confidence.
I hope our listeners feel more empowered and less alone in their journey. Remember, the key is consistency. Even tiny steps every day add up to big progress over time.
And remember that mini challenge from the beginning. Did you notice how many times we said forget or remember? It's a common challenge, and you are not alone.
Thank you so much for joining us today on English Podcast for Life. We are so passionate about helping you on your English journey.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and never give up. Every word you learn, every sentence you say, is a step closer to fluency.
We'll be back next time with more tips and encouragement. Until then, keep speaking, keep learning, and celebrate those victories.